Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And welcome to Act 2 of our Channel Awesome pitch for a biopic entitled Not So Awesome.
They're not so awesome. Sorry.
Dragon, I gotta say, man, I was so happy with how the last podcast turned out. I really was. I really thought we were firing on all cylinders. We put a ton of time and resources and research into this project. Folks, this is our first collaboration, our first pitch. Of course, just to set the groundwork here in case you're coming into this blind. So, Dragon, you and I have been fans of Channel Awesome I've been there since the Nostalgia Critics YouTube days. Like, I've been there since the Cartoon All-Stars day, folks.
Essentially, you've been there since the beginning, maybe minus one video. You've been there since almost the very beginning.
Yeah, I've been there since the beginning, maybe minus Transformers, essentially.
Yeah. Very least you were there, in the YouTube. You were there, but even before the site existed.
Oh, so I was there. Yeah, I remember the site being a big transition. Yeah.
Me, I've been there since after all parts of Kick-Assia were uploaded. So I've been there at least for 8 years, 8 out of the 10 years, roughly.
Okay, so point being, this is something that has kind of like shaped both of our teenage lives going into our 20s and beyond, Dragon. Like, this is a site that is stuck with us. You know what I mean? It's a site that really had a fair share of just super memorable, just the sense of community that Channel Awesome had. And not just with the Nostalgia Critic, but with everyone else that was on there and all the crossovers that was going on. At a certain point in time, maybe 2010, 2011, there was Channel Awesome could do no wrong. You know what I mean? They kept getting talented people. All the people were really, if not for the drop bar on the site, maybe, getting the recognition they deserved. It was a really good kind of creative, collaborative process. But little did we know behind the scenes that things were not so awesome, hence the title. Yes. So Dragon, of course, the point of this biopic, kind of the thesis statement of the biopic, is to kind of get to the root of what happened, like what led to the not so awesome document, what led to the downfall of the site, what led to the current state we are. Doug and Rob are kind of like awkwardly being strangle-held by Mike Michaud, and are just kind of like seemingly doing Nostalgia Critic against their will at this point. It's just a crazy journey that we've gone on, from Doug Walker quitting his job, which is the start of our movie, him quitting the job to pursue his dreams, to being stuck in a prison of his own making. That's kind of the arc we want to go on. It's a story of brothers, but it's also a story of a failed community. And of course, with everything that we're doing, we kind of laid the groundwork, because there's a lot of interviews, folks. There's a lot of interviews. There is like dozens upon dozens, if not hundreds of hours worth of interviews since all this has come out and come to light, with all the various content producers that were involved in the drama, from the horse's mouth itself. You know what I mean? From the people that were actually there. So I've listened to as much of it as I possibly could. My main source was the Social Injustice Warrior channel, just to give him a shout out. I've sat through a lot. I sat through way too many of his streams, his 6-hour plus streams, plus watched his entire series on this. So, point being, I'm just a longtime fan of the site, and the downfall that happened last month, Dragon, it's still a fresh wound. It's just kind of like, it's almost still a developing story, but you and I kind of feel like it hit an end point, and that's what we want to kind of,
yeah, now that the dust is kind of settled, and it seems things, for all intents and purposes, seem to kind of have cooled and settled as to, basically, I think, and we'll definitely get to this with Act 3, I think we've seen the fate of the Walker brothers and the Nostalgia Critic, for all intents and purposes. And that'll be interesting to see kind of what gets us to that point. That's kind of what Tiki and I are really trying to break down in this, folks. I mean, we're trying not to. I'll make it clear. I mean, yes, we are using the not so awesome document as a huge crux of our story here. And again, a lot of our revelations, a lot of our kind of our information is stemming from that, as well as from the the Social Injustice Warriors analysis and kind of conversation about that, and kind of getting to the root of all that. So again, we've done a lot of research, and again, I've had years of the commentaries on making of features to kind of get an insight as to what happened, and then kind of finding out
and
maybe
of course,
things.
I'm someone who's followed the Lord Cat side of things for years as well, Dragon. So
I've also dabbled
in drama for a long time.
I dabbled with the Lord Cat stuff for the most part. I always figured it was mostly kind of biased, and that's kind of when Lord Cat case. Of course, now we're kind of seeing maybe it wasn't entirely the case. So right. My point is, with that said, we're trying to kind of approach this as unbiased as possible. We're trying to be really fair. Trying to make a movie that hopefully, years down the line after the dust is absolutely settled, maybe the channel awesome producers, the people involved could look at this and say, it's an accurate reflection of what happened. Of course, we're going to be a little theatrical in places, a little bit more cinematic in places, I should say. But we got to extrapolate. We got to maybe change a few things. Again, it's a biopic. It's definitely it's based on a true story, absolutely. So there's definitely some wiggle room here and there. But we're trying to not make anyone. We're not just siding against Channel Awesome entirely, because again, it was a noble idea that kind of got corrupted and got complicated. We're trying to kind of sift through the complications in a cinematic way. That's kind of what we're doing here. So hopefully, we're going to do it justice and be fair as we can be as we go through.
Okay, so Dragon, if you haven't seen Act 1, folks, I'm going to put a link to it in the video description. So by all means, I would suggest watching that first. It's about an hour and a half long of us kind of laying out all the ideas and also kind of laying out the thesis statement for the project. There's a lot of casting stuff that we go over in Act 1 that we're not going to have to break down as much in Act 2. So I think Act 2 is going to go by, for all intents and purposes, a little quicker. Although there is more stuff in Act 2, so that might kind of even it out a bit, but I digress. Right. So, Dragon, just to kind of give a quick recap of what went down in Act 1, as I said, we start the film with Doug Walker quitting his job and pursuing his dreams as a nostalgia critic, but we also importantly start with a framing device that's going to bleed its way through the whole film. Do you want to explain the framing device?
Yeah, sure. We're just going to hit kind of the important stuff you need to know in Act 1 to kind of get to the rest of it, folks. Like 3 main points. And the frame device being the first point, in that essentially it's 2018. It's basically it's brothers are kind of reflecting on what happened. They're reflecting on what happened, what got them to the point they're at now, which is right after.
They're not necessarily reflecting, though. They're in panic mode. We're talking, this was the apex of the drama. This was the point right after their second response was made, the response that leaked you Wario and everything.
And essentially,
so this was like a cataclysmic event in their lives.
Yes, so we're checking right after they just they had, let's say either a few hours or a night before they had responded, and then they've kind of had the horrific realization now that, oh my God, people put together the J that was on the document, and now basically getting texts, and they're all text, emails, their phones are buzzing off the hook, and all the internet's all of Twitter, and they're basically, you're right, and they're in panic mode, and they're just and there's kind of in kind of in their hour of despair, and Doug's kind of posed the question that kind of gave us our little movie here. We're posing the question, what have we done?
So we cut back to the framing device a couple times throughout Act 1. But notably with Act 1, we get set up with the 3 Stooges, which is Mike Ellis, Bhargav, and then Mike Michaud. Mike Michaud being the most important of the 3. Michaud is going to play a major role as kind of he's being played by I was going to say he's being played by Mark Zuckerberg. He's being played by Jesse Eisenberg. And basically, Dragon, our elevator pitch about this Mike Michaud is that he's the Jesse Eisenberg, Mark Zuckerberg character from The Social Network if that guy was incompetent.
Yeah, basically it's the old talk version of Mark Zuckerberg. Basically, he sells you on you thinking he knows absolutely what he's talking about, but in reality, he has no idea. He's a good salesman, not really a good marketer. He's not a good marketer. He's not a good management type.
Mm-hmm. So point being, after the 3 Stooges are laid off from their job at Best Buy, they pursue a career in internet they get the idea for the website, which leads them through a whole cast of characters, including the cinema snob and Spoony and, kind of people that have already been established. And then they stumble across Doug and the nostalgia critic, which is in its very early infancy. And that essentially gets the ball rolling. They connect up with Doug, and through some shady legal dealings that they're going to later come to regret on the Walker end of things, we get the site, thatguywiththeglasses.com.
Yes, and just overall, so yeah, Act One, it's kind of the good times. It's the good times. We're kind of forming a dream based on reviewing some nostalgic properties, having some fun, doing some reviews, and basically where we ended Act One was they had the idea of doing a crossover because we established the angry video game nerd, and basically Michaud in the way and kind of how we established Act One is that Michaud had the idea like, hey, let's take our publicity stunt with the angry video game nerd and take what we've been doing lately with Nostalgia Critic, where he's been crossing over with other Channel Awesome producers, other That Got the Glasses producers at this time. And basically, let's do the brawl. Let's do the anniversary brawl, and we'll keep it local. Though he kind of cheaps up the plan where let's do like a movie. No movie, guys. We're just gonna do like at a hotel. We're gonna everyone meets local only. If anyone wants to fly out on their own dime, they'll fly out on their own dime. So
and one person specifically who wasn't there in real life, but we needed to include in the movie at this moment because it's creative liberty we needed to take, folks, because this guy is a pivotal character in our narrative. So Jew Wario in this narrative flies out on his own dime. He gets a big round of applause. And then we cut to the brothers in 2018, and they just exchange this horrified look like, oh no. Oh God.
We had this epic moment where basically they kind of pause the video where again this fanciful video of basically it's like Bhargav had a vlog, and that's what we use a lot, and we're going to use it especially in Act 2, folks. I want to highlight that. So Bhargav is usually our question man, but he's also kind of our cameraman behind the scenes. He's kind of those are the two roles that Bhargav really has in all this, aside from being Monty. But so essentially we have the vlog that was made during the brawl, and it's like we pause at that moment. Jawari and the brothers exchange that look, and also again another reason behind the brawl. It's going to be at the very top of this is Michaud. He had the idea of let's launch. We want to launch Blistered Thumbs in the following year. We want to launch that to basically have more gamers on the site. Which of course, if we buried the hatchet with the angry video game nerd, people would know. Okay, we got gamers and and comic reviewers and movie reviewers all under the same roof. Therefore, and we have some spin-off channels in the works, like Inked Reality, Blistered Thumbs, and we're getting people ready.
Michaud kind of gives that really menacing speech to Linkara that really sells him on the idea.
Yes, and basically Linkara was always, I guess last thing, and we'll just get right into it because then we're just kind of,
last thing that we should maybe kind of re-hit the points with Jew Wario that we want to hit and then get into it.
All right, sure. Anyway, so with Link, so Michaud's goal of Channel Awesome, he wants to do Channel Awesome. He wants his vision of Channel Awesome in our interpretation of it is he wants the community of reviewers, and spin-offs and such. That's what he wants. He never wanted to focus it on Nostalgia Critic, but he did that because it was necessary to kind of build up the website in the first place, get everyone kind of swarming to the main town. At the end of the day, if it comes down to making money via the Nostalgia Critic, we'll market the Nostalgia Critic before anyone else. But again, he went to Linkara saying, hey, why don't you join us? Look what we did for the Nostalgia Critic. We could do that with atop the fourth wall, and then you'd have this whole network of connections. He's basically kind of backing Linkara as kind of his ace in the hole, kind of his secret golden boy on the side of hey, you kind of side with me. I'm not saying Linkara is necessarily in his pocket, but Linkara is definitely being groomed as one of the most important producers on the site, which, as we know, Linkara, he's the go-getter amongst the Channel Awesome producers. So we're definitely building. Linkara was sold on Michaud coming to him, so that's important. That's what happened in real life too. Linkara had a few videos to his name, and basically he saw another Nostalgia Critic in his crosshairs, so he kind of went to him like that. Okay, so Linkara is going to be important going forward.
So Jew Wario, as we said, kind of gets set up, against the brothers' concern in the present day. He gets set up as this big kind of beacon of hope. He's almost like the symbol of the future of the channel in a way.
Yes, and he is very much the linchpin of our entire pitch in many regards. Thematically, he has great significance. So again, we ended on Jew Wario for a very important reason. And just remember that ending, folks. Just having vast applause, and this is important. Ending on Everyone was getting like a rousing kind of applause introduction. Basically, Doug's like, and introducing this guy, and of course the last one's like flying in here on his own dime because he wanted to be here so bad. We showcased his work on the site a little, and here he is joining the fold. It's Juario, and again all that applause and everything. So again, we're definitely setting Juario to be a beloved figure, but again maybe a little too beloved. I mean, in like all the build of this moment with the brothers like having their biggest moment of shame in the present. And again, folks, all this stuff in our frame though, all this stuff like in the aftermath of the Juario of it all, that's definitely going to pay off in our climax of the third act. So that's important. Okay,
let's get right into it then. So we start the second act off with 2018, and the brothers are in conversation, placing the blame on Michaud.
Yeah, especially Rob. See, Rob, and this is a very founder-esque realization. Of course, for me, I kind of brought a lot of the founder kind of mentality into the pitch. And
I feel like this pitch is like a great melding of the founder and the social network.
Yes, and very much the brothers are kind of having they're very much the McDonald's brothers for all intents and purposes. The Walkers are kind of filling in for the for Dick, and Rob's very much kind of like I guess Dick McDonald in this scene. Where he's he's the Nick Offerman character from the founder, the more all business brother. And he has the very founder-esque realization that we never should. Basically, we let Fox into the hen house with Michaud. That's really what he's bringing to the fold. It's like the realization at the end of the founder, where oh my god, we never should have let Michaud in. He's the reason we were so led astray from just wanting to do reviews. And basically, we're setting up the idea here that the boys here, they don't own the Nostalgia Critic property. Michaud does.
So essentially, it was a mistake to not stop Michaud when they could have.
Absolutely, and again. Right after we introduce Juario, then they're having this conversation. So we're definitely kind of seeding some threads. But in this moment, we're opening Act 2 by building up Michaud as we set up Michaud as just kind of a guy with ambition who's not he's the most proactive he is in Act 1, and now we're getting into a Michaud who becomes more complacent to eventually menacing. That's kind of where we're going with Michaud. We're just kind of playing him off like we're building him up to seeing him very kind of nonchalant to lazy to ultimately menacing. So we're starting with that nonchalant. So again, we build up Michaud. We should have stopped him when he had the chance, and we cut to Michaud kind of at the height of his power for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, this is great, Dragon. I looked this up this morning. This was surreal to watch. Oh man.
So folks, there's an interview. You can go on YouTube. So basically so again, that's 2018, our frame device, and now we're going to 2009.
This is the best look you're ever going to get of Mike Michaud, folks.
Yes, because Michaud, for reasons that we're definitely going to get into in this, Michaud's he's very camera shy, let's say, for good reason. So Michaud, in 2009, you can actually find this. He was at this round table kind of businessman's entrepreneur dinner. Like basically like an interview with other kind of mobiles of internet companies and such small businesses and such. And
it was really a trip because basically the vibe of that interview that I got was that it was kind of two old timers of the industry mixing it up with this new kid who had this like radical idea. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And we definitely see here that, it's kind of an exposition dump that the story-wise, it's inflating Michaud's ego and his menace. This is the guy already who's he's not really crediting everybody else's contribution. He's really taking all the thanks. He's basically selling it like all thanks to me. Channel Awesome has grown. It's more prosperous than it's ever been. And basically, as he's basically every time we're definitely playing with the editing in this scene. So Michaud's at the table, and again, folks, you can find this interview just like type in Mike Michaud or Mike Michaud interview. It's like one of the few things you'll ever be able to find on the guy, and you'll find it because they did it essentially. It's like Kevin Smith, J.J. Abrams, and like a whole bunch of. They used to do this show called I think it's like Table for Five or Table for Four, where they had like directors and actors like at a round table where they just discuss things. It was always a weird novel concept, but it was always kind of cool. Anyways, and so the point is they did like an interview very much solid like that. It's like a dark room and it's just kind of oddly lit. So
and it's weird because they're actually eating, so there's like pauses when they like sip on their wine and stuff.
Yeah, and I've seen other interviews, like Kevin Conroy did an interview like this once. It's really strange, but anyway, the point is, so our guys are so Michaud sent down basically every time he's getting to like an expository statement, because again, we're a few months to a year later, because we're really firmly in 2009, where you're kind of starting on 2009 at the very end of Act One. So he's filling us in what's happened since we saw the end of Act One in 2009. So every time he tells us something, we kind of show it unfold. So he's saying we're launching Blistered Thumbs next year.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we show the Blistered Thumbs crew entering kind of Reservoir Dog style into a convention, which is a big setup for later on with the Blistered Thumbs crew, with kind of our gamers who are being introduced. And our gamers, of course, Juwario, which you've already seen. Juwario was introduced into the fray, but also Tiki takes to the rest.
Yes, we have Oscar Isaac is playing Angry Joe Vargas. Frankly, Angry Joe doesn't really have a big role. He's just kind of there because he was a big kind of figurehead of the Blistered Thumbs community.
It's like, if it's some things you need Angry Joe for Blistered Thumbs. You need to get him in there, and like originally we had like Diego Luna, but I felt Oscar Isaacs, he might be able to he has range. He'd be able to. I'm not saying
Isaac kind of has like the wild card quality more than Diego Luna does.
That's the thing. Nothing against Diego Luna. It's just Oscar Isaacs. He's I don't know. He has like I could buy him kind of doing more of Angry Joe shtick at the end of the day. All right, so we have Angry Joe.
Then we have Lord Cat. Now this guy's going to be interesting, Dragon. So Dave Fogel is going to be playing Lord Cat, and Lord Cat is going to be the voice of dissension within Channel Awesome well before the Not So Awesome document becomes a thing.
And
he's going to kind of become the like in the way that James Rolfe, Angry Video Game Nerd, was. Kind of like the playful rival that we saw in Act One. This guy is going to come along and be the legitimate like rival, going to be kind of the legitimate guy who's out to soil the site's reputation.
Exactly, and for reasons we'll see, he's quite biased about it. So it's like the guy who wasn't wrong, but people took everything he said with a grain of salt because he had a vendetta against the site. So everyone kind of doubted, like a guy who was telling, for all intents and purposes, kind of telling the truth. It's like no one would believe him because you were burned by him. That's why you're saying that. Anyway, also, of course, importantly, again, mentioning Lord Cat, Spoony is also in this scene. So, mainly it's Angry Joe, Spoony, Juwario, and Lord Cat. The four of them are entering kind of Reservoir Dog style, and Spoony, just to recap the casting, he is portrayed by Simon Helberg from The Big Bang Theory, Howard from The Big Bang Theory, who's, I think, is a very strong choice for Spoony. So they're walking into a convention, which, of course, we'll check in with kind of what they do that, how they do that regularly down the line. Then the next thing Michaud's talking about, we're producing content to reach various demographics and forms of entertainment. Basically saying, we're reviewing other types of stuff, and we're basically trying to say like we're kind of the equal opportunity internet company. We name drops contributors with pride as we cut to their exit post years later.
Yes, nice. So we have Nostalgia Chick, we have Marzgurl, and we have Phelous.
And again, like every time, like he's meant, like he'll mention their names, like, oh yes, we have all these great kind of content creators are producing various diverse, like we have like kind of the female, the more feminine nostalgic properties with Nostalgia Chick, and we cut to like her exit post being typed up, like her leaving, and then we have Marzgurl, who of course is covering the animation and anime, and of course her things being typed up all cryptically and ominously, and again it's kind of fitting with the opening credits of it all, and Phelous, covering horror and kind of the did Phelous do Grindhouse?
No, I mean honestly nowadays Phelous is more into knockoff animation, but I'm not really sure what he did back in the day.
That's the thing. So pardon our lack of knowledge on Phelous.
I like Phelous a lot more now than I did back when he was on the site, to be honest with you. I've kind of grown an appreciation for Phelous.
The point is like a diverse thing with Phelous, right? For the most part, I know he did like horror stuff. He did like kind of darker stuff. So you kind of So the point is we cover three different demographics.
Well, I mean, I think that's the reason why he and Lupa hit it off, is that they were both kind of like Z grade reviewers.
Yeah, there you go. That's the word. Yeah, kind of more. Yeah. Kind of he was the Z grade before Lupa showed up. Essentially. Anyway, so and then after, again, I forget how the interview goes, but whatever moment we'd be allowed in that interview, Tiki would basically either when he's being complimented or at the end when he's trying to go out on a self-important statement, he would basically make the statement something along the lines of, at the end of the day, the key to our success is that we work with the utmost professionalism.
Cut to Casper,
where we see Doug shooting the end.
I think this is going to be kind of like a fun running thing of like Doug Walker undercutting the seriousness of what Michaud's trying to do.
Exactly. So again, like Michaud saying, "Hey, with the utmost professionalism," of course, is an ironic statement given what Michaud kind of casts his own doom in that line where you see him talking about professionalism.
Sure.
Where we see Doug, with the comedic cut of again, so it's kind of, if you don't know what happens, then you're not going to, on a rewatch, you'll absolutely enjoy that a lot more. But so we see Doug shooting the end of Casper at the Geek Media Expo, GMX. With the fans, and basically the way that went is he did a panel, and at the end of it, he asked everybody, "Hey, you guys want improv? We'll cut the lead into this scene just because for the fun of it. We don't have to, We'll cut to it being filmed. Where the idea is, Doug he had a panel. He said, "Hey, you guys want to be a nostalgia critic? I'm shooting the end of the Casper thing," and basically they improvise with people from the panel, and he's chasing an imaginary Casper, and he's having fun with, and they all run to the pool, and basically the whole ending where Doug leaps into the pool. It's ridiculous, over the top, and funny. And then we just have Doug and Rob going back to the room. Doug soaking wet in the Ghostbuster costume. And then
this leads to probably my favorite shot that we conceived in the whole pitch, honestly, just from like a cinematography point of view.
Yeah, I'm still pretty proud of this. I tried to do this in a couple places in the pitch with the camera.
It's basically like a Birdman moment.
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, it's we're essentially. The camera stops because for the most part, Rob and Bhargav are kind of our cameraman behind the scenes for a lot of things. But this is like one of those examples. Usually, when we're at a convention, that's when we usually break that rule. Where the camera stops. Basically, it's like we see them like walking back to the rooms as the end of the making of the Casper video. You can see them like heading back to their room, Doug soaking wet. Hence the idea. I propose, like, if you watch that, folks, imagine if you see them heading back to the room, but then as they're like getting like going up the stairs of the escalator to get to their rooms or whatever, the camera stops following them and then goes in the opposite direction to explore the convention floor. And as we kind of sweep the convention floor, like we ourselves are exploring the convention and we're checking with our other producers. So we see Linkara doing Atop the Fourth Wall live, which is something he loves to do. Like talking about
I definitely have fond memories of watching those. Yeah,
we see Marzgurl and Juwario playing Dance Dance Revolution and being cheered on by fans. Again, fans being very important. A lot of young fans.
Then we see Spoony getting recognized, just like the nostalgia critic is.
Yeah, that's the thing. We're kind of showing that Spoony came to the site with a lot of clout, which is why they went with Doug before they went with Spoony. They wanted someone they could cultivate. Where Spoony now they became a bigger thing. Like, hey, Spoony, want to come on the site? Yeah, sure, what the heck. So so Spoony, he's getting recognized. People are posing. We're seeing that we're definitely building up Spoony's fandom to be kind of his downfall, as it is Doug's to an extent.
Sure.
We have Joe. Joe's building up Blister Thumbs, which hasn't been officially announced, but he's basically, hey guys, we're going to be doing this thing that coming up on the site. He's basically hyping up Blister Thumbs while demonstrating a game on the Xbox. Of course, the symbolism of the Xbox and Blister Thumbs.
Yes.
All of that, just it's kind of introducing the Xbox symbol, and again, kind of a promise from Michaud being carried out, and of course, we'll have kind of a dark ending. Let's see. You want to build up the Lord Cav at all?
Yeah, sure. Then we have Lord Cat, and he's kind of like chatting it up with some big wigs, and he's basically he's kind of trying to talk the big wigs into a future in podcasting and live streams. Which, ironically enough, Dragon, this is another thing that Lord Cat was very much on the money about, because podcasting and live streaming has become very, very big on YouTube, especially in the gaming community.
Yes.
So, so the big wigs, though, they're kind of like, they're not really seeing the big picture. They kind of shoot him down a little bit. So he's being shot down, but not in as embarrassing a way as he'll be shot down in the future coming up.
Yeah, there's kind of like, honestly, in this scene, I always imagine like he's just talking to him about him. We just kind of like, again, with the cameras like kind of panning over him and like kind of mingling with him for a second before it goes off. So you're just hearing like him talking about this stuff to him. So like just kind of like taking it, and most likely, again, not really doing anything with it. Just the assumption of, well, he's not really doing anything with him when we see him next time. So also importantly, I wanted the live streaming in there because I wasn't able to fit it in somewhere else, but he did pitch this to Michaud, and Michaud shot the idea down. Michaud shot down live stream, which of course is something that we do. Again, it's just showing you Michaud not having good business sense at all.
That might have been one of the single worst decisions on Channel Awesome's part, honestly.
That's what I'm saying. So we're kind of alluding to that with like just him talking about podcasts. Kind of
like Blockbuster being, we don't need Netflix.
Exactly. So, all right. So anyway, so we after that, so then we're on the floor again. So now Doug, he's got into a change of clothes, and so now we kind of check in with the brothers, kind of walking the convention floor, and they're walking to meet somebody. They're meeting Brad Jones.
Well, hey, it's me, Brad Jones.
So, Brad's at the convention again, just for dramatic sake, for the sake of drama here. We wanted to have the Walkers and the Cinemas and Brad Jones. They have a really close, they're close knit. They're friends. They have a bond, and I was so unsure of. I remember talking to you about it. I remember so unsure of like how to get these guys to meet each other, because before it was like this randomly drop by his house and like invite him to the house so they could talk about reviewing ideas. So I had him watch the video instead, and now this is like the only way I could really figure that they would be able to.
What you can do is you can come over and hang out with my awesome cat Lloyd.
Exactly. So I think the better option is that they just meet him at a convention and they invite him to work. They invite him to join the site now, again, much like they did with Spoony, so it would make a little bit more sense. So they walk up to Brad and they tell him, "Oh my God, we love your work. It was a big inspiration to us when we were forming Nostalgia Creep. When we were figuring out our review style, we kind of looked at videos like yours, and we loved your stuff." And they invite him to join the site. And here's the thing: in 2000. I forget if it was 9 or 10, but at some point, Brad Jones, Rob welcomed Brad Jones to the site. Like he okayed him to join the site. And again, Brad Jones had his own thing going on with the Cinema Snobs. So again, it was kind of like a leap of faith. It's like. So anyway, so they hit it off, and he's like, "Yeah, you want to join the site? Yeah, sure. I mean, I like what you guys are doing too." And they hit it off. They're talking about.
They're chatting it up about their fandom for Ebert, their shared fandom.
And how that inspired them, how they're both inspired. The Cinema Snob famously was inspired by basically a fan who was kind of questioning Robert.
Like, I think it was like something like Friday the 13th, Jason Goes to Hell or something like that. Like, why the hell would Roger Ebert even bother reviewing something like that?
That's the thing. There was a Q&A he watched once with I forget who. It wasn't Roger Ebert, but it was like there was a Q&A with a famous horror maker. It might have been with crap. I can't remember who it was. The point is, he got the voice and the persona of the Cinema Snob from a Q&A, like a fan who was asking something exactly like the Cinema Snob. That's where he got the voice, and Tiki's absolutely right. Just seeing Roger Ebert talk about Friday the 13th, it doesn't quite fit that guy's style. What if there was someone else who was kind of more fitted, like themed to talk about the really off the beat, the really niche stuff, the really kind of like.
Well, no. The joke about the Cinema Snob was the Cinema Snob was kind of like a prototypical stand-in for Roger Ebert. So, Dragon, I think over the years the Cinema Snob series has evolved, and it's kind of just like the Brad Jones persona reviewing these weird things. Yeah. But really, the Cinema Snob started out as the whole gag of like, you've got this really snobby elitist critic reviewing pornography and treating it as if like, as if you have to review it on the same standards as you would review Citizen Kane. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So they're talking about that, and again, Ebert being kind of the connecting point in a lot of that, and how they were kind of inspired by that, and we cut from that. So again, like they're hitting off from establishing.
I really like this cut, by the way. We cut from that to Doug kind of like pridefully editing his Siskel and Ebert tribute.
Yeah, and again, this is an important thing for our third act, where again we see the heart of the nostalgia critic at his core. Again, there's a lot of genuine Ebert love, and again, that's he wanted to be. He wanted to be like a Siskel and Ebert. That's what he wanted to be, and that's kind of where it started with him and his brother on the couch, kind of talking about movies. And he always wanted that. And again, like when he's doing stuff like this in the Animaniacs tribute, basically Nostalgia Critic was the point that he needed to get to a place where he could just talk about filmmaking, but he needed the attention of people watching those videos. That's kind of where. So Nostalgia Critic was kind of a necessary evil in the grand scheme. I'm not saying they knew all this when they were going into it. I'm just saying, they just wanted to talk about movies and kind of reminisce nostalgically about things and kind of be taken somewhat seriously. And they had to. And we're going to see Doug kind of get landlocked into before he can do that, he has to be the everyone's clown and nostalgia critic to an extent. So that's gonna be important. So again, it's kind of a nice moment there. So with the it was also tribute. It was like a really great thing that of course he got attention for. So we'll get to that momentarily. So basically the idea I had with the locations is that Doug is editing the video while he like on a laptop in the hotel room that he went to earlier. He's still at the convention. And Doug calls Michaud with the cinema snob. He's, oh, hey, Mike, I was talking to Brad Jones, the cinema snob. We got him for the site. Isn't that great? And Michaud
kind of leads to our first bit of Michaud being a little bit menacing. Is that he's in shadow, he's playing his Xbox, which is going to kind of become a big running thing with him. And he's basically just kind of passing it off like, oh, I hate conventions.
Yeah, so we're definitely seeing the antisocial quality of Mike Michaud. And again, we'll seal his fate when dealing with the producers of Channel Awesome that he fears, I think deep down, and this is just based on like what I've heard, like Iron Liz and other producers kind of figure about Mike Michaud, because Iron Liz famously, as Tiki's said before, Iron Liz is an experience of Mike Michaud's. I don't know what he does aside from playing Xbox all day.
Right.
And based on that, my read on Mike Michaud is that he fears that he'll be seen, definitely just fitting into our biopic, whether, again, it's actual or not. I'm just reading into it based on what fits our story here, is that he fears deep down he'll be seen as a phony, as a guy who doesn't know what he's talking about but can sell people on things.
Do you know who lives in this house? A great big phony.
All right. So and basically he's just like, oh, well, look, I'm not much for the convention circuit, but you keep the success string going. Basically like you keep up the good work, Doug. Just keep it up. I think we're golden. Just keep cranking out Nostalgia Creek. He's a very hands off kind of overseer. That's kind of Michaud's. Again, we're kind of seeing why he was never meant for upper management. What he would do if he were in the upper management position. So
exactly.
All right.
Okay, so we cut to 2010. We see the Battlefield Earth 100th episode being uploaded. Meanwhile, Dragon, again, I love this cut with the Ebert stuff. We see the Ebert tweet in frame.
Yeah, it's kind of like while he's like editing it, or like, well, not editing it, while he's uploading the video, like we pan over on his wall, like his mantelpiece, and we see like the Ebert frame tweet. It's like again, it's showing the pride. Like again, we need to epitomize success of 100th episode and the Ebert tweet recognizing the Nostalgia Critic, which is kind of big.
So the brothers and Bhargav are kind of in a room bouncing ideas off each other for the anniversary. And let's just say Bhargav discovers this because, we need to give Bhargav some stuff to do.
For the life of me, I can't remember who had
Malacia website.
For the life of me, I can't remember how they came across the Malacia website, because I knew they found it. I don't know if it was just like brought up to them by somebody. And if so, we just, again, as Tiki said, let's say it's Bhargav. So they're directed to the Malacian website, which is kind of like a yes moment of the, oh my God, yes, the real life, Malacia website, which of course breeds Kickassia, yes. And here's the idea. So folks, I love, again, that was my big, it was the big, for me, I watched this before I watched The Brawl, if I'm being honest. And again, again, it was a multi-part thing. When I watched it initially, I just thought it was going to be like a little, like a video, but no, I didn't know it was like an ongoing event. I didn't know it was like a huge story that interconnected. I didn't know it was actually the whole, again, an anniversary special.
Right.
So,
Dragon, I remember being so confused when Kickassia was being uploaded. I was like, wait a minute. Judge Dredd M. Bison? What the hell is this?
No, but I got it. It's just like at the end, once I saw like what they were going for at the beginning, like, oh my God, yeah, they're doing this right. That's amazing. They're doing like an actual like big. It's like a cross, like it's like from
Dragon,
comics.
The cool thing about the crossover movies, maybe outside of To Boldly Flee, which has its fair share of issues, is that the anniversary movies were never meant to be high cinema by any means. But as do-it-yourself filmmaking and as something as niche as kind of like, hey, let's make an Avengers-style crossover with a bunch of these reviewers, it's fun to watch, Yeah,
so at the end of the day, I'm saying with this, and I think a lot of people would agree, they were on the money, absolutely what they should have been doing with Kick-Assy, and that's an anniversary special where the other ones are kind of amateur movies that are being made. And and Kikassia again, it was just a massive version of the crossovers they had done in video form, but kind of style again, not as a movie, just as an event.
Uh-huh.
And so with a lot of love and a lot of I think collective love for Kikassia, I thought we homage it as much as we can in the story, opposed to just like showing everything being shot. So we kind of get an homage if we're not doing something directly. So for example, like we'd reference the it's time, though that whole gag from Kick-Assia. We have an almost we just for silly, it's silly, but just for the sake of just kind of fun, we just like have a message being typed up and sent to everybody saying it's time for us to have an anniversary special. And again,
so we probably see we see Linkara, we see Brad with his cat Lloyd.
Like everyone's getting it, and we might have music, literally the Kick-Assia music playing underneath it all, just to homage. Well, no, I mean like the whole the It's Time theme playing as that from that scene.
Oh, right, yeah.
Anyway, so yes, they were showing all the producers, and of course,
we see Jew Wario with his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jew Wario's wife, folks, she's going to be a very, very small role. She's just going to be mostly in the background of a couple scenes. Point being, we need to punctuate the fact that she exists.
Absolutely, because again, you're right, Tia. I think she does have just mainly 3 scenes. So yes. So point is the invitation has been sent out, and they're definitely doing this. And so Doug, and again, I know the timing wouldn't necessarily. I took a kind of a leap of faith here, in that again, when you send out the announcement, you should have a little bit more of a plan figure. But then again, given what happens in all these anniversary specials, I didn't think it was that big a leap that they didn't have everything figured out.
Exactly.
So the idea is that Doug basically he sent out like the announcement like, hey, we're doing an anniversary special, we're flying everybody out to Reno, all that information, and Doug basically before he goes on the trip, he basically. We have the origin of the M. Bison costume. So basically, I said, well, what if it happened like right before they left instead of like months in advance? So Doug's at the dentist, and this actually happened, folks.
Yeah, true story.
Yeah, we're not making this up,
folks. Most of the stuff in this movie is factual. Really, the only thing we kind of had to take some liberties on are the timeline in a couple cases and who was in what place in a couple cases. That's really it. Most of these stories are pretty much based on fact.
Yeah. So so Doug's at the dentist, and I think the only thing I might have fudged in this sequence, and I can't again, you have to listen to the commentary to find this out for yourself, folks. But it's on the Kick-Assia DVD, so it's not easy to look up on YouTube. But essentially, it was either Doug or Doug's father that went to this, and we didn't really have Barney Walker as a character in this, so we didn't really.
It would have been fun to include, but again, it's like kind of like the Infinity War problem of you're juggling so many people at this point.
So regardless, I mean, Doug had to meet with the hygienist, and I can't remember if Doug was if he was either told about or introduced via the father, or he did himself. So I took the liberty of, okay, let's just simplify and make it a casual thing. So Doug went to the dentist and his dental hygienist, I believe. He's either an orthodontist or a dental hygienist. You know what I'm saying? I think it was a hygienist. The dental hygienist is.
It would have been the orthodontist, because orthodontists work on like braces and stuff. So unless you're talking about Chris Stuckman.
Right, okay, it's definitely got to be the hygienist.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is kind of a bit of real life for me, too, because I have a really friendly, awesome dental hygienist, too, by the way.
Nice.
Because, I mean, I talk about Star Wars with her all the time, so. They never specified the gender, so because of all those lovely memories, I'm just going to say it's a female dental hygienist. Who's awesome. So basically, he's making chit chat like I would with my dental hygienist, and he's talking about the event like, oh yeah, we're doing this, we're going to Malat, we're invading a small nation, it's this fun little kind of anniversary special we're doing. After this, I'm gonna be kind of looking for costumes for it, more like kind of like an M. Bison costume, like some ridiculous kind of over the top like dictator type thing. And so he's figuring out a costume, and she reveals that I make costumes. I could quote you a good deal. I could help you out there. And it's kind of like a light bulb moment. We kind of build to the reveal of this.
So that everyone, we kind of cut to a gathering of reviewers in Reno, and Doug reveals the M. Bison costume.
And again, we have it in the singular hotel room to get homage Kick-Assia as much as we can. So yes, he steps out. And again, it's a very because he did demonstrate the hat in the vlog. You can find the vlog. He demonstrates the hat. It's like, what if after that he put on the full costume and everyone else arrives? Everyone's as much as people as we can get in the room have arrived, and he walks out in the M Bison costume. Like it's a big reveal. Ryan Gosling, who of course is our nostalgia critic, just kind of stepping out in the M Bison costume, a ridiculous sight, saying, "Let's get started."
Okay, so we get a quick kind of scene of Bhargav filming the vlog. We see Rob with the leg injury.
Really after the first day shooting in Molossia, where Rob injured himself in like the big run, like the big running shot.
Uh-huh.
So at the end, things aren't starting off in the best of ways. We have like an optimistic thing here, where even if shooting doesn't go well, and again, this is going to be a big setup for Suburban Nights, where even if something doesn't go well, there's always like kind of like a happy undercurrent going on. At least in the beginning, it was like that. And so Rob's injured his leg. It's like, oh boy, they're beat from the shoot, and Bhargav, he happens upon these crossovers going on all throughout the hotel everybody's staying at. Being filmed like that night. Again, just it's a montage, so we could say it's like over a few nights, or like basically on the off time during the shoot. So we see like a lot of it's the whole sequence that we're about to see, the montage we're about to see unfolds. It's a fun, lighthearted, good time, everyone having good times sequence, and basically it epitomizes the dream of Channel Awesome, the noble dream of Channel Awesome, where it's a bunch of really creative people under the same roof, kind of having collaborations, incidental or otherwise, having a good time during this anniversary event. And again, something that would breed creativity. And again, we see that Michaud's idea is not necessarily like a bad one, like a greedy one. Again, it had good intentions behind it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that is one of the kind of stinging points of Mike Michaud, is that much like Michael Eisner, he did have good ideas. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So mainly what we see here, and again, if I needed 1 point for like Bhargav to stumble onto the star of all this, it has to be Troll 4. And I'd highly recommend, if you haven't seen the Troll 4 video that Brad and Phelous did. So Brad and Phelous played by Bill Hader, and Brad played by the great Toby Leonard Moore. I love that guy. They're kind of sitting down. The gag was people, and this would be a great way to start off, for basically people, other producers, they stumble they're sitting right in front of the elevator, so literally anyone who would travel would have to walk through the elevator and interrupt them talking about a movie that doesn't exist, because they're basically improvising talking about Troll 4, which it's a sequel that doesn't exist.
Okay.
And they're being bothered by all the producers, and again, like them, basically it's when the kind of crossover starts, and Bhargav actually wanders in during that, and he says, "You guys better get on a review," and he says, "That's what we're doing now." Oh, okay, because again, just Bhargav being kind of one of the shareholders that he is. Anyway, so let's say, okay, we did that mode, but Bhargav had the camera and he stumbled upon it. Then basically through that camera, we see a sequence of all the other crossers that are being shot like at the same time. So this leads to Linkar and Film Brain doing their review, their crossover review, which basically turned into this giant Dr. Insano extravaganza, and that's how we get Insano in the movie, where we see everybody. Literally everyone in the room, all the producers wearing Dr. Insano glasses, because Spoony traveled like 20 pairs of Dr. Insano glasses. So they're always wearing it's kind of improvised.
Begins to get really energized, kind of rapid cuts.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fun, crazy montage.
By the way, that's kind of one of Danny Boyle's specialties, which is why I pitched it for him.
Absolutely. And so we see Lord Cat and Spoony, like they're reviewing a game. And
yes, that's kind of like a big, like, hey, at one point they were friends. It's all going to go south very quickly, folks. But
I wanted to do more with this than ultimately I was able to. But at the same time, still, I think we got it in there. I think it still has some thematic resonance, where we have we see them kind of like having a blooper of spooning with Spoony, where they're kind of laughing in the bed, where there's like. Spoony, he's in the smoking jacket and everything, and he's we hear like the careless.
Spoony is one of the most ridiculous things that ever hit that site.
Exactly, and we have like the careless whisper music being played, so all that's like it's like da da da. So it's ridiculous, and they're breaking and they're laughing, and like Doug's in the bed too. So so we'll have that, and we'll show a few takes of that being shot, and of course there's going to be some dark undertones later on. Speaking of which. We have a real life thing that happened, and it's caught on video. You can find I don't know where you can find. I know it's like in all the videos they're making about Juario now, where we see a tickle fight between Marzgurl and Juwario happening in the hotel room.
Oh man, I mean, honestly, I think that was kind of like just a running gag between the two of them.
Exactly. So we see kind of again like in the midst of all this, like, and we have like just like it's almost like a crazy like pillow fight going on amidst this all these cuts, and like in the middle of it somewhere, it's like just for silly. Again, you think just for silly's sake.
And
Oh
once
my
again,
God!
this is after we're kind of introduced to Wario's wife in the background. So
Exactly, and I do have a secret. I do have a secret plot line with Juwario and Marzgurl that we'll get to, especially in Act Three. There's a big secret plot line
wait, what are
with
you talking about? A plot line that I don't know about?
Yeah, it's a plot line you don't know about.
Oh
Yes.
Jesus! Wow, what are you doing here, Dragon? This is like this is like an inception of a pitch here. You're just like there's like secret parallel alternate dimensions in this pitch, Dragon. What have you thrown at me, sir?
Oh, you'll see.
Anyways,
Anyway, so the point is, it kind of it's like a little carefree moment in the midst of like all this fun kind of electric energy within a montage, and it's like, oh, but look at these, he's tickling Marzgurl. Oh boy, isn't that jovial? And of course, later on.
oh, not so much.
Okay, so at the end of the and now we're at the end of the project. Everyone's gathered for a screening of Kick-Assia, very much disaster artist style. It's like it's like the screening of the Room and the disaster artist. Again, kind of a parallel to the Room that we're kind of also kind of underlaying a little bit throughout this one. There's definitely a parallel between Tommy Wiseau and the Walkers. So we see like the end credits of Disaster Artist almost. We have the flawless recreations of moments from Kick-Assia where
of course.
Yeah, we have of course, we have Nostalgia Palin. We have, of course, because we have to get in there, we have Will Forte as Santa Christ.
Yeah, we need to have at least one moment with Santa Christ. That's mandatory for this.
And we have, of course, we have some great Juwario bits, where we have, where we have someone think of the children.
Oh man, and of course it's going to be played as a gag, but then on a rewatch you're going to be like, ooh.
Like we have that. We also have basically there are three Juwario moments. We have that. We have well, I like it. And we also have the Sam Raimi train thing, and that's the one. I'll tell you this: we'll have that. I mean, these have to go chronologically, so I think at the end, it's either Nostalgia Palin or of course that's like chronological. Oh no, Santa Christ. We end on Santa Christ. That's where we go with that. Right?
Yeah.
The point is, so we have some Juwario gags there. Oh wait, no. Sorry, I'm trying to remember the chronology of Kick-Assia. It's not important. The point is we'd end on either Juwario or Santa Christ. Either way, it's either hilarious or funny. But also cutting between moments, just seeing the reactions on people's faces. We'd hear a few lines and we'd hear something like,
I'm sorry, you're setting me up for a line that I don't know.
Well, yeah, it was your idea.
What?
Something like, it's 3D Lee.
Oh god damn. I'm sorry. I completely blanked on that. My bad.
Anyway, so we'd see other lines like maybe it's time. And
okay, basically, folks, our idea is to kind of incorporate really, really obscure people into just random offhand lines of dialogue.
Yeah, we'd hear I believe in Santa Christ and I believe in Santa Christ. And all sorts of little funny deep cuts. If you know Kick-Assia, you know that moment. Just basically as we see the reactions, we'll hear stuff like that. But again, we'll see the recreations as the ones that we've outlined. Again, the Juwario stuff, Santa Christ and Nostalgia Palin, of course. Okay. So basically Kick-Assia is done, and now we're getting rides to the airport. So Rob and Bhargav are really doing the runs. So let's just say Rob, just for let me ask you this: do you want Rob to do this, or do you want Bhargav to do this? Because I feel it's a little bit more tied to the Walkers if it's Rob. But then again, it would give Bhargav something.
What, the film brain moment?
Yeah, the film brain moment.
Oh yeah, I definitely think Rob should have the film brain moment.
So Rob, essentially, he's shuttling people to the airport. He's riding people to the airport, and again, the producers in this car again were Linkara, Brad, Lindsay, and Film Brain. Film Brain being probably one of the most important in the scene. So Film Brain, he's highlighting all the fun that they had during this shoot, basically remarking "Oh boy, I'm just so happy to be here, guys. I just brought on the 5-second movies, and this is his first anniversary special. You got to remember." Even if you watch his own vlog on the trip to Kick-Assia, it was the first time he left the country. It was the first time he left England to go to to go to Reno, to go to the States. And it was a big deal for him, man. So Film Brain's very jovial in the experience of what happened, like how lucky he is. Like, oh man, I never imagined this for myself, guys. This is so much fun. You guys have done the anniversary special before with the Brawl. This is my first time having a blast.
And of course, just quickly, Matthew Buck being played by Tom Holland.
Everyone's favorite. So
Matthew Buck's role in this movie is basically to be sort of like the innocent. You know what I mean? He's kind of like the wide-eyed optimist of the group who's eventually going to get kind of the knife in his back to a certain extent.
Exactly. And again, mirroring what happens in Kick-Ass here, where he's kind of the suck up to the nostalgia critic. He's basically taken under the nostalgia critic's wing. That's kind of what we're paralleling in real life, where, let's just say, for argument's sake, Film Brain, who was brought on by Doug Walker personally with the whole 5-second movies of it all, which went into an Act 1. Let's say he took him under his wing. And that was because it was such a sweet introduction to Film Brain. I mean, it would make sense that Doug might have a fondness for him deep down because he referenced the firing at the beginning of the film.
Uh-huh. So the anniversary is kind of fueling all the others and their interest in movie making. This leads to probably the darkest joke in the movie, dare I say?
It's a black humor. It's black humor at its finest here. So Lindsay, because we have to mention it somewhere, and we can't really dwell a lot on it. Again, would have been interesting.
Exactly. We can't dwell on it, but it does inform what happens to Lindsay Ellis. It's a big turning stone in her life. So,
and I did research in this, so I think chronologically, I think this links up that she would have had this done in 2009 because the movie she did came out in 2010. So basically, she mentions, well, they're talking about movie making. Oh boy, it'd be great to make like a movie. This is a fun anniversary special. Imagine we've like made a movie. Like, you guys have any experience in this? Like, Lindsay has the most experience out of anybody in the car saying
documentary.
Yeah, it's called The A Word. The A Word. What's it about? It's about when I got an abortion, and of course, just a moment of pause goes by, and
Brad Jones, in his most sardonic, is just like, cool.
I kind of read. I always kind of read like cool. It's like Brad Jones having that delivery he does, and basically him being the smart guy in the car saying, well, how do we come back from that? Because there's like this awkward pause in the crew, like, oh man, that's a dark thing implying she made a documentary about about abortion. Again, folks, from what we understand, it's not explicitly said, but it's heavily implied. No, she had an abortion. That's what the movie's about. So she so the only way of undercutting that and responding to that is just Brad Jones being kind of that comic timing, saying cool, as in like cool that you did a movie, and I mean that's
right.
That's a gutsy movie, and of course, after that, so again, they basically gets over the silence in the car. That's just happened. Linkara, he admits, he admires such a passion. Like, oh man, you did a movie. That's cool, and you did one that's a real personal passion project. I hope to do something like that in the future, which we know he does in the future. And
Jones is just like, hey guys, I'm making a cinema snob movie.
And he's like half joking, and like they're kind of laughing, and he's just like, because he says, "Oh, imagine if
how crazy would that be? A guy who reviews pornography for a living getting his own movie."
That's like he's remarking that like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do a cinema snob movie," ha, right? And he's kind of testing the waters almost, and of course, again, he actually will make a cinema snob movie. He's making a cinema snob movie very shortly.
By the way, Brad, I'm still waiting for my copy of that.
Yeah, we got to call out. As much as we love Brad Jones, we have to call him out on that one. He never delivered. Tiki ordered a copy of the Cinema Snob movie that never came.
It was a Christmas present. Anyways,
I've been much luckier with my DVD purchases from Channel.
I just wanted it for the commentary, Dragon. That's the painful thing. I know I can pirate the actual movie.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you there. I was dying for the features.
Yep. Anyways.
All right. So yeah, take us through.
Okay. Let's see. So
Ellis and Michaud.
Yes. So Ellis and Michaud are kind of rolling in the success. Ellis suggests more staff, which leads to the worst typo that we have on the posters, by the way, Dragon, unfortunately, but we'll just kind of have to grit and bear it. Leads to Holy Brown.
Okay, more accurately, Holly Christine Brown. Played by the wonderful Jessie Ennis, who a lot of people may remember from Better Call Saul, playing Aaron, the kind of the legal partner in training at Davison, Maine.
So we'll just kind of have to pretend that it's just like, hey, Holly's kind of the savior of the group, so she's holy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so Holly is she's not gonna have a ton of screen time, but she's going to be a pivotal kind of figurehead of the story.
Exactly, and as like Ellis is suggesting more staff, we kind of see stuff unfold. Like as they're kind of spitballing it, we see it happen. Again, to kind of economize story where we can. So we see, as he mentions, like more staff, like a site administrator, like basically someone another site administrator, and we see him like Ellis personally welcoming Holly, and of course it's going to be like he's kind of falling in love at first sight with Holly. That's kind of the intimation there.
And Ellis, I almost kind of feel like we should have had a little bit more with Ellis, but we'll see where we go with him. Sure. He's a tough character to write because there's just not a ton known about him.
I mean, the only thing I really knew about Ellis, period, was from the vlog from Kikassia, where he just had that moment where he walks up the dog, and like that's how I recognized the guy when I typed in his name because I forgot what he looked like. He's like, oh yeah, he's the long-haired guy who walks up at the beginning of the vlog. That's
yeah, he's got that dumb comb over in like the one picture that exists on the internet of him.
Yeah. So anyway, because for a while I thought that was before we looked into it, definitely. For a time, I thought he was Mike Michaud because he had so many mics. But then, of course, now everybody knows what Mike Michaud looks like, and they've made fun of it. Poor Iron Liz. What is it? Tommy Pickles, the rough years of Tommy Pickles.
Oh, something like that. Yeah.
The point is, there are a lot of cutting remarks about Mike Michaud that people. So, anyway, so again, like we see welcome like a site administrator cut to welcoming Holly, and some new producers, and Ellis is giving the. So basically, as Ellis gives the cell line, again, we show under the joke between Ellis and Michaud since the beginning is that Ellis has he's like the Ray Stantz of the group. He's treated like Ray Stantz, but he actually is like Egon for a Ghostbusters parable, where Ellis has all the good ideas, but Michaud kind of takes the ideas and sells it as his own. It's like nonchalantly, Michaud's like, oh, okay, sure, it sounds like a good. It's like he's like Dan Harmon in place. I don't mean that in a negative way to Dan Harmon. I'm just saying he's like kind of like Dan Harmon, very nonchalant. Like, all right, sure, whatever. Rick and Morty reference. Yeah, anyway, so
I'm sorry, I'm kind of just waiting for the next images. So,
oh sure. Anyway, so like we introduce basically as Ellis is like pitching, he's basically reading off the dossiers almost for these reviewers, basically saying, like, "Oh, I've seen these reviewers. I've looked into these guys. We should do them." Like there's a Z Gray movie reviewer named
Obscurus Lupa, aka Alison Pragler.
Yes, who is played by Chelsea Peretti.
Now, Dragon, you were the one that pitched the casting on her. I really have no idea what she's been in, but I must say, just based on the side-by-side comparison, I can see it.
Yeah, Chelsea Peretti, she is really funny. She's a comedian who is very, not just funny, but she's in one of my favorite shows. She's in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And thankfully, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, a show that was picked up for another season. Very lucky, fingers crossed. Like, oh boy, dodged the bullet there. And she has this great kind of sardonic, and that's the thing. To talk about Lupa for a moment here. Lupa was a personality on the site who I really initially I didn't care for. And
yeah, okay, this is going to be an interesting kind of point of conversation as we get into that, because I feel like the interesting thing with Lupa is that she turned herself around. Like, the Lupa thing, like I almost kind of feel like there's not enough of it in the movie. But again, folks, we're dealing with like something like 25 major players here, so we don't have time to give everyone a fully basically we got a taste of what the Russos had to go through doing Infinity War, you know what I mean? But the interesting thing in real life with Lupa is basically kind of like contrasting the Spoony drama. Like around the time of the Spoony drama, I kind of saw Lupa as a shit disturber, you know what I mean? That kind of bothered me. I kind of was like, oh, she's just digging up these old tweets and kind of causing trouble and stirring up drama when there really shouldn't be drama.
And the amazing thing is that it was all a misconception that we
Exactly. And looking back on it, not only was that a false accusation on our part, but also Lupa was not only looking out for the other person that we're about to introduce, but, at the end of the day, she was one of the most sympathetic figures of the whole site. And she also got screwed over in probably the most visceral way.
She did. And here's the thing with Lupa for me is that here's the thing, and here's why I cast Chelsea Peretti, is that Chelsea Peretti, in a similar way, Tegan, I swear to God, this is what I was thinking. Kelsey Pereira was a character in Brooklyn Nine-Nine who initially I wasn't thrilled. I loved everybody else, but not her initially, and she grew on me tremendously. She grew on me tremendously as the season went on. Like, okay, I see what they're doing with this character, because initially she was very sardonic and like everyone else is like kind of a light, silly, interesting character, and she's just kind of like she was the receptionist. She was the receptionist, and she had like a good. I'm not saying that she didn't like have a profound arc, but again, she became more and more likable as it went on. And that definitely had that Lupa quality, because with Lupa, for me, she was always kind of the sardonic kind of member of the group. Like the thing that always stuck in my craw at Lupa was less the whole Spoony of it all. It was more so, and again, it was a misconception, where she did a commentary, I believe, not on, I don't think it was Suburban Nights, I'm pretty sure it was To Boldly Flee, with Brad and Phelous. And again, before I kind of filled in the blanks, I was like, okay, so she's an item with Phelous in real life. Therefore, her, and then they hang out. And initially, I thought she was a Yoko of the group. I thought she was like, oh man, she's cramping. Like, these guys are having fun talking.
Oh man, and that, yeah, like you said, that is totally on you.
Exactly. You gotta remember, folks. It's just like she always had that. She had that sardonic thing, and I perceived that like a little negatively. And here's what was happening: is that Brad and Phelous, they did Kick-Ass commentary together. They did Suburban Nights together, and by the time they ended, there's the two guys who were friends, as I mentioned with the Troll 4 thing. They palled around, they were friends. And then she comes along after finding, okay, so she's not even Phelous, therefore, again, assumedly kind of a Yoko thing, where she's on the commentary, and she's basically, it read to me at that time, they're having a conversation. She's just sardonically like taking insulting the movie and just distracting from whatever they're talking
about.
Really,
in reality, she was almost kind of trying to warn the audience, like, hey, there was not, like, this wasn't all sunshine and rainbows.
Exactly, which again, I just read as like that sardonic thing that I was always a little put off by with Lupa, and I just assumed, okay, she's like that in real life. And that was a big misconception on my part.
Okay, so I think we're talking more about Lupa than we have actual scenes of her, but I guess that's important to kind of set the precedent with her.
But yeah, I mean, Lupa will have some big moments. And again, she is kind of she's the beginning of the end, so she is important. She has a really important role in the story, though. So
I'm not trying to underplay it. I'm just saying, like, compared to some of our other folks, she doesn't like the center of attention in the story.
All right. So another reviewer that they're mentioning, like maybe like another else saying maybe another anime reviewer.
And folks, honestly, this person could have been cut from the narrative entirely if we wanted to. But we just came up with a perfect casting, so we had to include her.
We kind of needed her, though, for the whole Spoony of it all, so we kind of needed her.
I think there were ways around the Spoony thing, honestly.
The point is, at the end of the day, we had an excuse for us. We put her in
there. So Sally Hawkins is playing Hope Chapman, a.k.a. Jessu Taku.
Now, folks, at the end of the day, whether necessary or not, you come on, look, tell me that's not perfect casting. Come on!
Yep.
Big Shape of Water fans.
I would say Sally Hawkins is maybe like 5 years too old for the role, but you know what? Screw it.
She made us feel with hands, Tiki. Come on.
God.
You made us cry with sign language.
I'm just saying, like, this side-by-side comparison is kind of like an older J.O. You know what I mean?
All right, fine.
But still, it's, liberties can be taken with that.
So the point is, we established J.O. And also, I think the implication here, too, because we're definitely going to set up at the end of this act, Michaud having undermining Marzgurl. He just treats Marzgurl like crap. And
and of course, Marzgurl is another important character with her bond with Jew Wario that we'll see throughout the act, as well as, like you say, kind of, she's kind of like the figurehead of hope within the community, not Hope Chapman.
She definitely, Marzgurl suffers is one of the producers who suffers the most in all of this. She really does. She is
absolutely.
The darkest bit in the movie, I think. And I mean, we'll go through it again if I change my opinion on this, but I still think the darkest moment with a producer, aside from the obvious, would be a scene with Marzgurl in the third act. Anyway, so I'm just saying this. Again, it's just kind of Michaud not really thinking, but at the same time, it's really undermining. We already have an anime reviewer, so it's like she's not doing a good enough job of bringing on this new girl.
Pretty much.
And we should.
I do remember getting into Jessu Taku through her Miyazaki reviews.
Yeah.
So.
And we show like Marzgurl and J.O. kind of working together, and Marzgurl taking it in stride, but maybe feeling a little like undervalued. Meanwhile. So, big okay. Now we've had a lot of setup there, so now we're getting to the meat of it here. So, Rob is going down a hallway, very much like an executioner. Again, foreshadowed to our franchise where bad stuff's happening in channels. Are we there already? But no, of course not, because Rob's walking down a hallway like an executioner, and he tells Doug, in quoting the previous line, "It's time.
It's time."
And you Doug don't looks mean a solemn nod. He's like nods, like without uttering the words. Cut to the nostalgia critic in the review revealing that he's talking about. That's right, folks. I'm talking about The Room.
And then we kind of see the cameos of all the other characters kind of going in to warn critic about reviewing it alone.
Like Lupa, Linkara, I think Spoony, and anyone else.
Importantly, we see we kind of Dragon. I'm kind of coming up with this on the spot. What we could do is we could kind of do what we're kind of a fan of with this pitch is kind of linking the dramatic with the silly. So we could kind of have the silly moment where Lupa is kind of like running out in tears.
Yeah.
And contrasted with what we're going to do at the end with her.
Very true.
Yeah.
We could absolutely do that.
No, critic, you can't. Away with you.
That's the thing. That's why we have I was definitely thinking of that moment here. So, I mean, because I just the whole I must, Lupa. It's my duty. And, of course, she runs out of the room. But you're right. I didn't quite think of the I might have an inkling of.
I'm just coming up with this thematic tie on the spot, but I feel like one of the things we're really kind of leaning into with this pitch is the idea of mixing the silly moments in the videos with the drama of what went down in real life.
I think you're absolutely on the money with that. So, okay. Here's the gag. So we do all of that from the people remember from the video, which is really funny. All this periodic cameos, and again, it's all these like quick cuts back to back, folks. So again, we haven't really even talked about The Room. Like right before I must. He's about to utter a word, and before that, we just cut to the copyright removal.
God.
And then Bhargav's, they're all huddled around a computer, and Bhargav's kind of asking, again, being the question man of the group, asking, well, what now?
And Michaud, at this point, the Xbox is just kind of becoming a nuisance. He's at the Xbox, he's half interested, he doesn't have an answer.
And folks, a lot of this, like Michaud just being kind of useless in a crisis, a lot of that is really, it's in the making of Suburban Nights where you see him during the, seriously, you can watch this and see what I'm talking about, folks. When they're having their big kind of strategy meeting, he's just sitting around. He's literally not presenting any solutions in the conversation. He's not suggesting anything. He's kind of focused on the business side of it a little. He's not playing the Xbox, but he's very much just on the couch, just kind of there because he has to be. That's very much where I'm getting the intent behind this scene and the later scene that I just mentioned. So we have like another round table meeting, and Michaud's kind of playing his Xbox, half interested. Again, no solution at all. Holly gets the ball rolling. And again, we see Holly being very useful. She's starting to get the ball rolling with solutions. That, if only we had some way to kind of combat this and kind of get the people on our side and maybe get them to change their minds. And folks, we're really, Tiki, give them context. What was going on with the cult copyright situation?
I mean, basically, like, Tommy Wiseau was just off his rocker and kind of just like, essentially like after the interview with it. Well, no, he copyrighted. This is like an ongoing problem, actually. Like, he went after the copyright right away, and then it's going to resurface, when they do the shut up and talk thing. And then after that, he does the copyright. So Wiseau is just kind of like, Wiseau and Doug Walker oddly have this sort of back and forth dynamic with them where, Tommy, like I don't know, Dragon, you're asking me to look into the mind of a madman here.
Okay, well, what I'm referring to specifically is at the time, the deal to our knowledge was that Tommy Wiseau and one of his handlers, I believe his name was John, Tommy Wiseau had a guy who managed the Room website, and that guy kind of jumped the gun and assumed, okay, it was something. He didn't really look into the reasons behind the review and the fair use and all that stuff. And he basically, in saying he's the one guy, not even Wiseau himself personally, was like, shutting everyone down with the copyright. And in lieu of this, the brothers get the idea of, if only we had someone to get the people on our side and kind of like flood it with like a response. And that's what Holly suggested. The brothers get the idea, let's mock him. We'll just make fun of this. Cut to the video that parodies exactly what I was just kind of referring to, the Tommy Wiseau and the guy around the website with the hello. Again, we just see Ryan Gosling in the ridiculous kind of the Tommy Wiseau wig doing an impression. Hello, I'm Tommy Why so? And this is my Tommy Why show.
Dragon, you know Tommy Why show was a thing that actually existed?
Are you serious?
I am dead serious. It was about Tommy Wiseau being abducted by aliens to review shitty video games. Look it up.
I'm sorry, I'm just a little taken aback. Is that real?
Yes, it's called the Tommy Why Show, and it's literally the premise is that Tommy Wiseau is abducted by aliens, and the aliens force him to review video games.
I'm gonna look into that after this. I'm sorry, I'm genuinely taken aback.
I am not kidding you.
All right.
Okay. I mean, it might not be up on YouTube at the moment because you know how Wiseau works with his copyright stuff, but just look into it though.
All right, I'll look into it anyway. So the point is, so we see we cut to that video being made, and also Gosling playing John, the other guy, no. That guy basically defending, basically arguing with Tommy Wiseau about
kind
protecting
his origin of the douchey character.
Exactly. So we literally the wig of douchey McNitpick and of course the personality of douchey McNitpick divided into two characters, so it's quite funny. Anyway, so we see that video, then we kind of hear about the emails being flooded and being sent all across the things, basically leading to the video being re-uploaded. So it's the video's back up. Holly gives it was kind of a hilarious cut to Holly.
She gives kind of like a Coke and a smile moment. She gives just a thumbs up.
So literally, we just see they're all huddled around the computer again, like hey, video's back up, and he's look to Holly off to the side, who's getting a drink or something. Honestly, Tiki, I'm gonna say, Tiki, I swear to God, I'm just gonna come up with this on the spot right now. Let's just say she's by the fridge. She literally gets a Coke and she just looks over. Hey, the video's back.
There you go. Sure.
Gives a thumbs up and a smile, yeah. And they do all celebrate in this moment, though. So it's just they all celebrate. So regardless, let's just say she was getting a beverage in the moment. Regardless. She gives the thumbs up, and they celebrate. And in this celebration, Ellis, Mike Ellis, again, they're all jovial, and they probably get a little schlockered. Who knows? Ellis makes his move on Holly. Now, again, they are both married at the time, I'm pretty sure. I know Ellis was married. I believe Holly, I think she was at the same time, too. The point is, I think it's what it says in the doc. I think they're both married. Regardless, Ellis makes his move on Holly, and she shoots him down. Again, mainly because of the marriage thing, but again, also, I don't know if Ellis gives
also
off.
Because Mike Ellis just has that gross comb over and seems like an unpleasant individual.
Yeah, that's probably it. I don't know. So basically, and as it happened in life, he gave a really intense okay when she said, I don't think we should do this. Okay. That's going to come back in a big way. So again, we set up that Ellis is now developing a kind of a threat. I kind of pulled a Fairly Odd Parents reference on this. A threat-mantic dynamic with Holly. So he's definitely
that's a silly way to describe a very serious situation, but sure, let's go with it.
It's accurate though, because it's threatening, and again, it's out of romance, but it's threat-mantic.
Oh God. Okay, so we cut to E3. Big scene here. Jew Wario is demonstrating the power glove with angry video game nerd. Really quick, folks, AVGN is just kind of like he's mostly in Act 1, but we'll just get him in here for this, brief, hey, there he is again. We love that guy. And he's being played by Sam Rockwell. Great.
And also, folks, I'm going to prepare you for this. And Tiki, I don't know if you've connected the dots on this quite yet. I don't know how much you prepared for this, but again, this is also a subtle foreshadow for Wario having a dynamic with the angry video game nerd for a big setup in Act 3 with these two.
Sure.
Anyway, yes.
I'm also going to kind of improvise some lines on the spot here.
Oh, sure.
Jew Wario, all jovial, is just I love the power glove. And then James Rolfe kind of sardonic, and in his character, he's just it's so bad.
Yeah, there we go. That's good. That's great. So, Wario, again, as they're doing this, again, more and more young fans are taking pictures with them and hey, can we get a picture of you guys? Oh, yeah, sure. And we're seeing that slowly Wario is getting kind of Spoony levels of notoriety.
Yeah.
It's all right, so it's happening. Meanwhile,
Joe is preparing for an interview. But then right behind him is Mr. Antwiler, who goes into betrayal.
Now, I staged this very intentionally, Tiki. I staged this moment because there was
betrayal thing, Dragon. It was one word that shook a website.
Because here's the thing. Lord Cat, he's also in this scene, and from Lord Cat, he blamed both Joe and Spoony for what transpired, and Joe swore up and down, "Hey, no, that wasn't me, Lord Cat. Don't throw me in a bus." Now, whether Joe was saving face or not, I don't know. I'd like to believe Angry Joe was telling the truth. So what I did is I kind of met in the middle, where okay, Joe was in the neighboring area, so that you understand where Lord Cat's getting. He's lumping Joe in with Spoony for when this went down. So he was like close by, just preparing for an interview, which just we don't have in the movie, folks. Just the secret joke is that Angry Joe is terrible at interviews.
Yes.
I'm sorry. This is like he's terrible. I watched him crash and burn on when someone compiled some stuff about Angry Joe. Like, oh my god, I crashed and burned in an interview. It's embarrassing. Anyway, so again. So Spoony, basically some big game came out, and Spoony,
it was Ultima, I think.
Sure. So again, we like in the previous scene, Lord Cat, he's trying to impress the bigwigs yet again. He's very close to closing a deal for his future. He thinks, and again, yes, there's a bit of a. Wasn't able to get into the whole thing about. What in real life, Lord Cat, I believe like the following year, like the following week or so.
Following year in real life, but like I said, folks, we're taking some dramatic liberties with the timeline.
Like for all we know, he still tried to do it next year, but I said this is like you see them starting we see him starting to get a bad omen. That's the point of it.
Right.
So basically, Lord Cat again, he's like in like a table or something with the bigwigs. He's like, "Hey guys, remember me? Oh yes, Lord Cat, yeah, remember you." They're starting to like talk to him, and as this is happening, again, they're just lumping him in like. It's not spelled out. Let's just say Lord Cat left, but we didn't make a big deal about it. So regardless, you're lumping him with Channel Awesome, whether you know it or not. So, But anyway, what happens to these? Lord Cat's trying to chat with the big.
Lord Cat then becomes kind of like the voice of dissension on Channel Awesome, and Holly is listening to. What?
Well, I know. I mean, what happens with the whole betrayal thing?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, basically, what happens is the bigwigs kind of shut him down. Like, hey, are you with the site with that guy on it? Pointing to Spoony, like, betrayed me. This game sucks.
They're probably like faking. He's asking people if he can choke them. That whole thing, like, hey guys, why if I shoot you on camera, like fake choking you? Because this game sucks.
right.
And again, it's very embarrassing and very like over the top. And honestly, you just kind of play the moment. Kind of almost silently, where the bigwigs kind of they give like an embarrassed look. It kind of makes it cut even deeper. Where they turn their noses up at him and he says, "Oh yes, we'll be in touch." And they're basically giving the look of like basically they were starting to really welcome him, all friendly like, and then this happens and they're just kind of lumping them together. And you see it almost on Lord Cat's eyes. Here, he's just looking up like, "Oh come on, guys, no, I'm not with them. Just it doesn't matter. You're associated with them." And they kind of turn without dialogue almost, and they turn their nose up at him and says, "Yeah, we'll see you next year." And Lord Cat, he walks off, and as he's walking off, and this is another
gives the or he gives the most intense death glare that he's ever given in his career.
And this is a moment that we kind of, I'm just realizing this in the moment here. This is something that we kind of parallel with two other characters in Act 3.
Sure.
Okay, yeah, so Tika, as you were saying, Holly.
Yeah. So Holly is listening to one of Lord Cat's like 10-hour podcasts about anti-Spoony and anti-Channel Awesome. And so we continue the running joke. We get a Skype call from J.O. who's having trouble with the drop bar. Which, as we said in Act 1, folks, the drop bar was the running joke for all of Channel Awesome.
But it never got fixed. It was always like hard to use and didn't showcase all the producers that well. So it was always like, and just the gag is Ellis. He built the website and he just he screwed up, and then Michaud just said, we'll get to it later.
So Holly messages Ellis, and she gets a series of disturbing threat-mantic messages.
Yep.
She visits Michaud. She shows off some notes and stuff. And this is one of Michaud's few moments of being proactive here. He's annoyed, but he puts his Xbox controller down. He steps outside, and Dragon, this is kind of an interesting scene, the way it's cut, where it's like, we see the argument kind of violently erupt between Ellis and Michaud, but we don't hear any words. We just kind of see the two yelling at each other from, basically from a window vantage.
Yeah, like so we're focused on Holly and like her perception of this event, where Holly's just seeing like almost come to blows outside. Michaud's probably saying something along the lines we don't hear it, but you might hear like this the reverberations of like gibberish almost from the outside. They're saying like you're always doing this, Ellis. Why you're ruining literally with the HR representative. What are you doing? You're trying to kill me, man. I'm trying to run a company. Like me. I don't know. They're going back and forth about really angry exchange. And Holly, she's just kind of looking outside, hoping this gets dealt with. And Ellis just kind of storms off again, almost coming to blows there. And it's like pushes Michaud a little, and he walks up, and as he storms off, he exchanges eyes with Holly, which is very, again, just to I wanted to establish the threat of Ellis, because again, it's kind of hard to convey like all the intricacies of what Ellis did to other producers, so he focused on Holly, and also just the fact Holly had to feel like her life was threatened. Again, we showed it was a really violent, explosive conversation, and he was looking at Holly very threatmantically. So basically then we have some comedy amidst the drama, and this did happen, folks. We're not making this up. I know it sounds sappy,
this is a stranger than fiction moment right here.
It is. So basically, we juxtapose, and Holly's in trouble. That's what we intimated in the previous moment. So now it's like nighttime. Night is falling, or at least like sun's going down, whatever. And sweet but silly scene. The Walker brothers are armed with a bat and a sword. And again, Rob Walker did have a katana, and I didn't make this story relevant. I'm proud of what I did with the sword here. So we have the bat and the sword, and they're in the dead of night. They're kind of escorting Holly to her house so she can pack clothes and stuff to go to a safe house. And in a very over the top manner, they're like almost like it's like a jokey SWAT team almost, like they're huddling around her like she's the president or something. All squatted down, and it's ridiculous. And again, it's kind of sweet, like it's like they're kids almost protecting their older sister. That's kind of the vibe I was going for. And inside, and this again happened in real life. It's on the dock, folks. Doug tested out the mace or pepper spray in the sink, and what I imagine we get some Gosling comedy from the Nice Guys, which is half the reason I cast him as nostalgia. Half the reason I recommended casting him as nostalgia. Where he sprays he tests out the pepper spray in the sink, and of course, folks, pepper spray does have a recoil effect. It's always dangerous to test unless you do it from a distance with a dummy or something.
Right.
He gets it in his eyes, like a little bit of it in his eyes, like So then they
runs out in tears. He's squinting at the sword, and then he gets an idea.
Yes, cut to 2011. So 2011, we see again looking. Basically, I tried to intimate that this stranger than fiction moment in time that involves swords and the Walkers feeling like they did something impressive, and playing to Doug's ego and where we're going with it, especially in the big blow up of Act 3 that you know about, where Doug feels a little important. This is kind of what fuels. This is what fuels Doug's love of kind of like, of characterization, of kind of being in the thick of it, of kind of being bigger than life, where, you're in a situation, you had a sword, and you had a bat, and like, boy, having a sword, it kind of takes you back to the times of old in a way. And doing another anniversary event during 2011, Doug is writing Suburban Nights, and the idea is, Doug's writing Suburban Nights, is how it went down, that Rob and I infused Holly in this because, well, now Ellis is gone, so now they have to pick up the slack. Now the guy who kind of built the website and who was handling the site rather sloppily has now been replaced by two people, Rob and Holly, who are really busy. And while Rob's busy, which he was, Doug himself writes all of Suburban Nights and then gives it to Rob so he can kind of do like a cursory check after it's all done. Mm-hmm. And so the idea is that's why there were a lot of huge cracks in the writing. Because Rob, they didn't work together.
Plot hole.
Exactly. More of that, man.
yes.
So the point is, like, Doug's writing this, and it's motivated by that sword moment, and we see a montage of him writing these bits intercut with the gang arriving. I'm sorry, take your songs.
Yeah, sure. So we see Jew Wario. We set up his wife again. Let's see.
So this is set to get your motor running. So basically, I wanted to have like a bad omen for Suburban Nights because things are gonna like we're gonna have it's not gonna be like Kick-Assy. It's gonna have a grinding halt where we might have like the majesty of Kick-Assy being a good time. We're gonna have Suburban Nights be something bad, but comedically a little. It's not like end of the world bad like Taboli Flea. It's just gonna be kind of like things go wrong in a big way. And one of the most memorable things from Nostalgia Critic would be when Get Your Motor Running devastated him, and of course he freaked out on the movie at the end of that review. So basically, that's what's playing. As again, we see like Juari like kissing his wife goodbye or something. Again, like everyone else is like on their way, like, being transported to the Walker house, and as it's having like Get Your Motor Run, and so again, it's like a deep cut reference. Like if you know this, you know something bad's about this.
Yeah.
So cut to the gang gathered in a hotel, and again, you can find this on the Making of Suburban Nights, folks, where they're all gathered in a room. It's Doug and Rob. They're giving a meeting like they did with Kick-Assy on the vlog, where Doug is walking him through the shooting plan. I'm proud of this. So as you folks can see it, Linkara and Nostalgia Chick mainly. Again, just to kind of give Nostalgia Chick a little bit more to do, and of course Linkara, the most proactive, most professional of the group. They're asking them very logical questions, and we kind of have a comedic undertone to the scene where as they're asking these logical questions, we cut to what actually happened. Basically, as like the Walkers, the balance, Tiki, I think the balance that we struck is at the end of the day, the Walkers, they're not monsters for what happened here. My analysis of on the dock, essentially everything happen. You can probably verify everything that happens on that dock. However, in regards to the anniversary stuff, you should take 80% of that with a grain of salt. In that, anything that was a continuing problem with anything else in the dock, that's on the money. It's the 20% that I'm excluding. But the 80% that you got to take with a grain of salt is these guys knew what they were getting into, and that they knew like with Kick-Assy they were going to have like a. They weren't making a movie. They were doing a home movie. They were doing an anniversary special, not a movie. So you shouldn't expect like a SAG thing. You shouldn't expect everything. It's guerrilla filmmaking at its finest. And things are going to go wrong, and you're there because you want to be. And basically, we're seeing with the Walkers there. That doesn't mean they were monsters for not having stuff there. It just makes them look really incompetent filmmakers who are getting way in over their heads. So basically, the Walkers like foolishly, and again, as you see happen in the video, like they're rebuffing. They're like, oh, that's hilarious. Like that's not going to happen. Like no, we're basically not at all entertaining the notions. Like I keep thinking of the Rob Walker moment where it says, if anyone has any troubles with this, they can direct it to my fist.
Yeah, right.
Where basically Rob is like saying, I'll be shooting both days because they try to divide it up in like team day 1, day 2 with each team and et cetera, and like room for crossovers and all that. So they think they have a plan. And it's like the old joke.
So we get this really good editing thing that you came up with, Dragon, where it's like, one of them asks, what if it rains? Cut to pouring rain outside.
It's like they say, like, no, like never happened, then cut to, pouring rain.
One of them asks, like, well, we need permits, right? Cut to people freezing in the cold, waiting an hour for the park to open.
Now, Linkara asks if it rains. Nostalgia Chick asks for the permits because we have her ranting about the permits in the Making of Suburban Nights. So then someone, I don't know who, maybe even Rob, I don't know. So it's like someone asking Cursor, like, are you sure about not wearing pants?
And then cut to Rob kind of freezing in his Legend of Zelda getup.
Well, Doug freezing in the.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Doug's freezing, and everyone's pretty cool too. And
it's kind of like making the Marilyn Monroe effect.
Yeah, so we see like I imagine like this cool shot. I wrote that as in like I imagine there's this cool shot of Gosling in the link walking in, like we see from behind maybe of like because this did happen a lot when they were shooting it, that a gust of wind would blow because it's the Windy City after all, folks. And like the back of the skirt would probably lift up almost like a Marilyn Monroe effect, and you see the people like walking behind him in like those walking shots, looking really uncomfortable. Like,
God.
And see, I just like he's making people a little uncomfortable, not in a creepy way, but again, something that would definitely fit with stuff later on.
Sure.
Oh, okay. So basically, we set up kind of like, okay, this shoots a disaster with those 3 moments. Ideally, if that goes over well, that's
kind of like cuts to them in a hotel room, like, well, that didn't go as planned, guys.
Yeah. So there's the big power meeting. So Bhargav is filming this again, folks. This scene literally pulled out of the making of because it seems like
And
there's a
this is
big.
one of those scenes that, like, when you see it in real life, you understand why it has to be in a movie at some point.
Yeah. So Doug, Rob, and Michaud are and again Bhargav, who technically has like stake in the company, but filming it honestly. They're in a room, and we have the depressing rain pouring outside, and they're in like, it's like, oh my god, we're supposed to be shooting this day. Now we're stuck inside the rain, and they're defeated, mulling over the options. They had two options they discussed, which is either basically using the making of as a Lost in La Mancha style documentary of like, here's what we were trying to do, but then of course ended in disaster. The film that never was. That
right.
Or an indoor murder mystery set, with the rain behind it. Michaud is of no help for the reasons.
Just do the indoor murder mystery with Brad, Rob, Doug, and Guru Larry.
I'm down for it.
Fly Guru Larry out there, Yeah. Anyways.
So Michaud is absolutely of no help. Again, he's just in the scene, just kind of hearing the ideas and say, well, I mean, if we, basically saying like, hey, whatever gets us more views, essentially. That's really his mentality is at the end of the day. Holly, so basically after this meeting, these kind of said, after this meeting, Holly is made aware about what's going on. They're evaluating options, and she desperately is put on speakerphone. So I imagine,
like, you idiots, don't do this.
Yeah, and she basically convinces them, okay, guys, look, just gather the producers and put it to a vote. Okay, I'll gather the producers. We put it to a vote, and the idea is Holly gave at least the producers an hour to think about what's going on. So they at least they put together what's going on fast. So in that hour. So we're in the hotel, and they're all handing out the papers, for the vote, for the big vote. You want to take us through this?
Yeah, but before the big vote, before all the papers are handed out, Linkara stands up and gives a rousing speech about how far they've come and that they're all in. And Nostalgia Chick kind of throws out that she wants to assist based on her experience with filmmaking. Let me see. The group kind of volunteers their equipment. Spoony has a memory card. Todd, or I'm sorry, let's address Todd in a second, but Phelous has a camera. And, Dragon, you might notice someone in the background who we don't really properly get introduced to in Act 3, but you might notice, let's just say, a certain producer wearing a hoodie kind of lurking in the shadows.
Honestly, a part of me, I'm just coming up with this on the fly, part of me just wants to have him just have like a random thing where we haven't introduced this guy, but he's just like, hey, here's a memory card. Oh, thanks.
God, right.
I just want that. I kind of want that to happen.
So that guy has a very small role, but we'll get to him in Act 3.
Certainly. Okay. Anyway, so and also again, the Linkara delivering the rousing speech, of course, delivered by the wonderful Wentworth Miller. Everyone knows him as Captain Cold on The Flash, and also America knows him as Michael Schofield from Prison Break, a show that he was the lead in. So again, he's our Linkara. I'm super proud of the casting choice. So. All right, so again, the idea is like even without seeing, because you fill in the blanks, create an audience of respect here. It's like, yeah, we can. Everyone's banning deer. Like, yeah, let's put on a show essentially, and we're in the after party, and the after party is a very pivotal scene. So the after party. So the after party is happening. Everyone's gathered around. Like some of them are in their costumes and they're having a good time. They're playing like a version of Dance Dance Revolution. So we give Marzgurl a little bit, a little bit there because they're doing karaoke or doing like a Guitar Hero or something. I think they might have been like a makeshift Dance Dance Revolution. They're playing some game. And in this after party, everyone's just kind of mingling, and they have the big moment where Doug is like saying, and thank goodness for Holly who got this production on track.
Hey, Holly, if you look under the bar, we got something for you.
And you say, oh, roses, guys, like, yeah, Holly, you've been the mother to all of us here.
And then maybe Dragon, just to kind of cut back to Rob, we cut back to him, and it's like, it's a cliche, but it works.
All right, fine. But anyway, so the important thing, this is us go. So that's what happened in real life, folks. And now we're just kind of inferring here for the purposes of our pitch, where let's say Michaud gets jealous because Michaud has a thing with women. He does. He has a thing where he makes a lot of. Has a lot of animosity towards the women of Channel Awesome for some reason. And I kind of wanted to start bringing that out here, where Michaud gets jealous and he goes to a dark place. Because I would summarize what I was thinking of is that Michaud wanted to be, again, Michaud wants to be looked at and wants to get credit.
the helpful guy. He wants to be the go-getter. He wants to be the people that the person that people respect and admire.
Exactly, but he hasn't earned any of that, and that's the thing. Like, we saw him in the crisis situation, not doing anything about it. He's just kind of there, like going along with it. He's not presenting any solutions whatsoever. He's just like, oh yeah, we're in trouble. And he wanted the adulation. He wants the respect. He's the antisocial guy who wants to be, the prom king, essentially. And Michaud,
again, kind of mirroring Mark Zuckerberg a little bit.
In a way, yeah. And exactly. It's like, again, it's Zuckerberg without the talent.
Right.
And Michaud gets jealous, and he kind of goes to a dark place here. And we kind of started off here where Marzgurl, because famously Marzgurl just kept getting intimidated by Michaud, because every time she asked him a question, he kept unnecessarily making her into the bad guy in the situation. Again, she had done nothing wrong, but she felt like she had been doing something wrong that ticked off Michaud. So let's show it here where Michaud. Well, I'm just saying, like, show it.
Well, I like how we kind of frame this, because basically we have three big moments in this scene, kind of condensed into one moment. That's good biopic writing on our part, Dragon.
Yeah. So
we have the Holly being acknowledged moment with Doug. Then we have this moment with Marzgurl, and then we're going to get another moment to kind of end things out for Act 2.
Oh, a little fun fact, is the fact it's occurred to me in this moment. I got to be honest. We have Jesse Eisenberg, and we have, of course, Kristen Stewart as Marzgurl. Of course, these two got along famously in Cafe Society and American Ultra. Here, not so much. So Marzgurl's asking to.
They were also in Adventureland together as well.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. So the point is, like, Marzgurl's asking him a question. Yeah. So Marzgurl's asking a question about, like, him overseeing, because basically the way they have is that Michaud had to give approval for her videos, and he always screwed something up.
What we could make this, Dragon, is I believe the issue that Kaylyn was having in real life was an issue of her videos being mistitled.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, because Michaud just didn't care. He just kept mislabeling the videos, and he every time he gave final approval, he just didn't care about the little minutia of it. And he said, "Oh yeah, we'll just put the video out like that." Anyway, in doing so, so basically, she's just asking a question, like a follow-up question to that, which we're not really spending a lot of time on, but she's asking a follow-up question, and then he snaps at her unnecessarily, basically saying, "Well, Marzgurl, you figure it out yourself." Basically, something really prickish, just like making it seem like her fault, making her real self-conscious. And then he leaves. And the Linkara raises an eyebrow.
Yeah. This is kind of like a Linkara being like, "Hey, wait a minute, that was not professional in the slightest."
Because again, this is the guy who kind of hanged his hopes on. Like, my guy's kind of let me down here.
Yeah.
All right, so.
Okay, almost done here, folks. Thanks for bearing with us.
So we see messages received by Lupa, and again, basically Michaud, he's like a monster on a rampage.
This is a scene that's kind of cut out of the second scene in The Social Network, the scene where Mark Zuckerberg is putting together the website that would eventually evolve into the Facebook, where we see kind of like the drunken typing, and that's very much what we get into here.
Yeah, so he's just saying out of like a ridiculous impulse, he's just he's sending really mean-spirited, pointed messages, grilling Obscurus Lupa over her ads and her mid-rolls, which is a big sticking point, which of course will get ramped up to epic proportions later on, and essentially, again, we intercut it being typed like the drunk Zuckerberg, as you said, and we see it escalate to the point where after, again, basically we keep intercutting between being typed and her reading it, and then there's the message itself to her, Michaud in her face, screaming at her, and basically the way he was screaming at Ellis almost. Screaming at her mid-rolls, always with the mid-rolls. And we just cut to we cut. I have an example, but no one's going to know it, so I'm not even going to bother with it. But we see Lupa. As the score is playing. Let's just say as the score plays, Lupa is we see her shaking after being screamed at. Michaud storms off, and she runs to the bathroom, and we see her have a breakdown in the bath. I've never seen Chelsea. I'm putting a lot of faith in Chelsea Peretti in this scene. I think she could do it. I really do. This is going to be a dramatic kind of low of lows here, because it's going to be the first punctuation of
okay, things are clearly not right in this site. We have Marzgurl being mistreated, and now we have this poor woman being reduced to tears and having a mental breakdown over what she's going through.
Lupa's without using the cliche, she's a strong female character.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that in the reviewing sense. I mean, she's a strong female person. I guess
that was the persona that she put on. Yeah.
Yeah, so Lupa, she's crying in the bathroom, and we see her. And I was proud of this moment here. So after she cries, and it's really tragic. She kind of has to suck it up, and she looks in the mirror, and she's like, it's like she composes herself as she walks out of the stall and as she begins to walk out of the bathroom, we cut to Doug walking on a stage.
Which is, of course, I like what we do with this moment, because we know in real life that Doug Walker was the one person there to hear her out in that moment.
Yes, and again, we don't show that because we just kind of intimate. People can look into the making of that themselves just to see it.
Right. But I do like kind of how thematically we kind of tie it together into Doug, though.
Absolutely. So Doug, he walks up on stage and he receives the 2011 Entrepreneur of the Year award to great applause and fanfare, which of course is a Juwario parallel to how we ended Act 1.
Oh yeah,
and of course,
in a much darker context. With Juwario, it was kind of like the big cherry on top of all the awesome producers coming together. Like, we got this guy, and we got this guy. But here it's just kind of like, okay, the site is starting to crumble. The foundation is clearly weakening. And yet Doug Walker is living in the lap of luxury. He's soaking it up. He's growing his ego.
And again, as this is happening, Doug's kind of in an earnest space, which of course is telegraphing our third act and kind of where we're at now with Nostalgia Critic in many respects, is that, again, we're just kind of blissfully ignorant and soaking in the praise as the world is starting to crumble. It's like the foundation's crumbling around you.
Uh-huh.
So that's our big ending of Act 2. So that's
all right. And Act 3, folks, of course, Dragon, I bet you anything there's going to be a lot of people who are just sitting here waiting for us to get to the Juwario stuff. We promise you, folks, that's going to be almost like exclusively Act 3. Act 3 is going to be the Juwario show to a certain extent.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else you want to tease about Act 3, Dragon?
Just Act 3, it's definitely building to a lot of payoff. There's a lot of payoff in Act 3. So anything you've been waiting for, folks, I guarantee that...
The Spoony meltdown.
Yeah, the Spoony to boldly flee, the Spoony meltdown, the creation of the Google Docs, a lot of the big stuff. Linkara has a really amazing scene, and again, just it's going to boil down to a big brother versus brother Shakespearean moments. It's a big. That's kind of our big pivotal scene we're really building to, folks. So we're gonna. That's the big build, and of course, the meat and potatoes of it all is our potatoes are the meltdown, the meat's Juwario.
Yes. Okay. All right, folks. So thanks for watching, and we certainly hope you don't think that this whole pitch is a betrayal. Betrayal! Betrayed me! This pitch sucks!